The UFC's heavyweight division is an absolute mess right now, and it has been ever since the UFC fumbled the bag with Francis Ngannou leaving and going to the PFL and doing his boxing thing, and it's just been made even worse now that Jon Jones is the champion, and Jon Jones has had an injury for the last year, which has caused a lot of congestion at the top, which has made the heavyweight division even worse. When we look at it, I mean, we have Stipe Miocic, who's most likely going to be getting a fight against Jon Jones at UFC 307, which we'll get into a bit more through the video. And because of that, there's no unification with Tom Aspinall, which would do a lot bigger numbers as more people want to see Tom Aspinall fight Jon Jones, because he's the only one that can actually really test Jon Jones at this point in time. He's got fantastic jiu-jitsu, very good striking, good wrestling. He's just very well-rounded, and he's 265 and is faster than Jon Jones. So yes, he's the only one that can honestly test him at this point in time. And, you know, we see this issue with like these common occurrences when it comes to these legacy fights. We see it with Michael Bisping versus Dan Henderson when Dan Henderson was ranked 13th in the middleweight division when Bisping was champion, and he got that rematch, as well as O'Malley versus Cheeto. Cheeto was nowhere near getting that title shot, and he got that second fight because of that storyline. So that's definitely why it's not really a surprise that we're seeing this Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic storyline come out. And you got to understand Tom Aspinall's frustration in it. What is he actually supposed to do? Like, Jon Jones has been actively avoiding Tom Aspinall ever since Aspinall won the interim title fight against Pavlovich. I mean, he's made comments on Instagram. Aspinall has made comments on Instagram, X/Twitter, whatever you call it, about he's been consistently trying to get this Jon Jones fight. And Jon Jones has been actively avoiding him. I mean, there's been numerous posts about Jon Jones basically giving excuses as to why he should be fighting Alex Pereira over Tom Aspinall, or why Tom Aspinall doesn't bring in numbers. He's only for the UK crowd. And then there's Alex Pereira, who's just a better matchup for him and can bring in more numbers than Aspinall can. And then there's also the Stipe fight where he's saying like, oh, I've proven everything when it comes to beating Stipe. I don't need anything else aside from this fight, which, to be fair, is probably true. He doesn't have to fight Tom Aspinall. But I mean, when we're looking at that threat and for him to go out on top, if Jon Jones can beat Tom Aspinall, there's no doubt that he is the best fighter in MMA history, without a doubt. Fighting someone that is that big, that skilled, and that natural in that heavyweight division, and he beats him not being a natural heavyweight, would be, it would just be career defining without a doubt. And when it comes to the heavyweight division itself and Jon Jones being the champion, Jon Jones is more in control of the heavyweight division than Dana White is at this point. Jon Jones is calling the shots here. And Dana is really not saying anything. He's bending the knee to having Jon Jones fight Stipe Miocic. He's made the comments in a press conference recently, about a couple months ago, stating a media member asked if Tom Aspinall would be next in line for Jon Jones, and Dana basically just blatantly said no. He's not. It's going to be Stipe Miocic at this point. We're not having Tom Aspinall fight him. And then Dana goes on about Jon Jones and Stipe Miocic being that legacy fight. Jon Jones is the go to the light heavyweight division. Stipe Miocic is the go to the heavyweight division. This is the fight that needs to happen. Well, it's not. Realistically, it's not. I mean, if Jon Jones is really moving up to that heavyweight division and he's really trying to prove himself there, Jon Jones needs someone that actually deserves the title shot in that division, which is Tom Aspinall. You can't say he doesn't. He's got the interim title. He flatlined Pavlovich, who was literally the heavyweight boogeyman. We thought that he was going to absolutely run through everyone, murk everyone. I had Pavlovich over Aspinall, to be honest, and he destroyed him. And Stipe has not fought in 2 odd years and was destroyed by Francis Ngannou. So he is the go to the heavyweight division, don't get me wrong, but he does, in terms of like chronological orders and whatnot, in terms of him actually, naturally fighting for a title, he should not be fighting for a title. He does not deserve it at all. It's like Israel Adesanya. I'm a massive fan of Israel Adesanya. He doesn't deserve a title shot. It's plain and simple. Israel Adesanya lost to Sean Strickland after he lost to Alex Pereira, so he didn't have a streak going there. He does not deserve that title shot. But when we look at storylines, we look at Dricus du Plessis versus Israel Adesanya, that's a storyline. They want that fight. It's going to make money. That makes sense. Now, when we look at Stipe versus Jon Jones, then yes, it's a legacy fight, but does it bring in more money than Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall? I don't think so. I honestly do not think it does. And then when we move down the division in terms of clogging it even more, well, firstly, we'll look outside the division. We have Alex Pereira at UFC 300 who was calling for a fight at heavyweight, which he didn't specifically say who. That being said, in terms of the pedigree that Alex Pereira is now, the caliber of fighter that he is in the UFC, there is no point in him fighting anyone in the heavyweight division aside from either Jon Jones or Tom Aspinall. Only someone that has a belt for Pereira, especially if Pereira gets past either Ankalaev or Yuri in the rematch, which at the moment, at the time of we're doing this video, is definitely looking more like Yuri Prohaska because he's just told Ankalaev to step aside. But I do think that Ankalaev does deserve it a bit more. Aside from losing to Jan Blachowicz and Paul Craig, he has destroyed everyone. So yeah, I think that Pereira should go through that Ankalaev fight and then look at a title at heavyweight, that's for sure. And when it comes to Pereira as well, it's completely understandable that he wants to go up to heavyweight. He's got that double champ status. He's looking at that double champ status and to be the first triple champion in the UFC. And when in an interview recently, actually, he did say that he is really wanting to make sure that he's doing it for his family, and any fight other than heavyweight in the heavyweight division other than Aspinall and Jon Jones is not a money fight. It's not going to be for his family, because obviously to do it for his family, it's the money for his family. That's the fame and everything is not doing it for his family at all. It's only the money that's actually going to assist them. And it also, not only in terms of family and money, you have to look at it in terms of where Pereira is in his career. He is, and his style and what he brings stylistically. He's a sole striker, so he never has the fight go to the ground, so it's more prone for him to obviously absorb strikes, which he has in his career. He's had a pretty long career. He's 36. And that being said, being 36 years old, why fight anyone else? Because he does not have that much time left. The only people he should be fighting is Aspinall or Jon Jones. If he's moving up, he just simply does not have the time. And I think Alex Pereira would be good for the heavyweight division, but at this point in time, it just makes it so much more confusing at the top in terms of trying to unclog it. And then when we're moving down, we look at Cyril Gane. I love Cyril Gane, but I have no idea what the hell this guy is doing. It's so tricky to actually understand what he wants. At one point, he's filming a movie, which is where he fumbled the bag and he turned down the UFC 295 fight against Aspinall, which Pavlovich took his place for. And then on the other side, he's playing esports, like playing FIFA and everything like that, trying to play esports competitively. So you can kind of see when it comes to Cyril Gane's mindset, it's just not there. So it's very hard to see where he is even going. And he is ranked, I believe he's ranked number 2 at this point in time. So he's definitely up there, and he's coming off a win against Sergey Spivak as well. But it's just making it so much more confusing and making the heavyweight division so much more messy. And then when we look at the rest of the division, this one pisses me off. We've got Volkov pretty much almost confirmed fighting Pavlovich. And when it comes to Volkov versus Pavlovich, Volkov has literally stated that he has never won a single round against him in training. So it's basically, he is just announcing on loudspeaker, this fight will not be exciting, do not watch it. If there's just no point in it, it's very frustrating. I just don't see why this fight should be made. I understand in terms of if one of them wins, like obviously it's giving them momentum and everything like that. And if one of them beats the other, it's getting up to that heavyweight division. Getting up to the heavyweight title, that title fight. But that being said, though, there's still like Cyril Gane and everything there that is as more primed for a title fight than Volkov is. So it's just extremely tricky in terms of what they should do there. And then you've got fan favourites like Derek Lewis, Tai Tuivasa, who are on their way out at the moment. You know, they're loved in the MMA community, but they're on losing streaks, and they're very much they have an old style. You know, they're knockout artists, they're slow, which when you look at Pavlovich, Cyril Gane, Jon Jones, you know, especially Tom Aspinall, it's not the same. It's not what the heavyweight division is trying to mold into now. You know, we've got, when we move on, especially looking at that kind of style, we have exciting fighters like Robulis de Spain, who's fighting next week, who's coming up, it looks amazing. I mean, he destroys everyone, but he's 36 years old. And yes, heavyweight fighters can be a bit older than the lighter divisions, it's not just about age, it's about stylistically. He's 36 years old and he is a sole stand-up fighter. Very similarly, in the sense of like Janata Deniz, who's another exciting fighter, if both Robulis de Spain and Janata Deniz move up, like they go up in the division, they're getting destroyed by everyone in the top 5. Like with Curtis Blades, Tom Aspinall, Jon Jones, Pavlovich, because they're wrestling. Their wrestling will just annihilate them. Robulis and Janata are probably the only two that I see that are really exciting. And yeah, Robulis is 36. He's getting past his prime, and Janata Deniz is in his prime and is dangerous on the feet like Robulis is. But yeah, both of them will just get destroyed by the top 5 at this point. So there's nothing exciting really coming up that's actually going to do some damage. And then when you look at Jailton Almeida, he just got fraud checked by Curtis Blades, and I think he needs to move back down to light heavyweight. I think that's where he stands his best chance. So that's pulling even more out of the heavyweight division, which is making it even more messy in terms of, okay, we've obviously got a clogged up, it's all clogged up at the top, but then it's also, where's the excitement through 5 to 15 and before it? Yeah, it's an absolute complete mess at the moment. And I think if I was to give a timeline of how to salvage the actual heavyweight division, firstly, Jon Jones comes back and he fights Stipe later in the year. It looks like that fight is booked, or it's going to be booked for UFC 307. It's early talks at the moment. And Jon Jones has said that he has a fight booked, and he said that he would let Dana announce it. And Dana's obviously not going to budge on the fight with him and Stipe, so let's be honest here, it's him versus Stipe. I mean, especially in the timeline of Dana saying that Jon Jones has got a fight booked, and Tom Aspinall is going to be fighting at UFC 304, it's not going to be Tom Aspinall. If it's Tom Aspinall versus Jon Jones in England, I would be ridiculously surprised. And then I think the only piece of real clarity we probably got here in the heavyweight division is making sure Tom Aspinall fights Curtis Blades. Making sure that rematch happens to have a bit of consistency there. Have that rematch, Manchester, UFC 304, headliner, obviously. It's an incentivized storyline. I mean, you got that rematch there. Tom's only had his loss by busting up his knee, which is obviously something that he needs to get that. Fight back, and yeah, it's a great fight for him to take while he's waiting for Jon Jones. He's just got we know he's got that deal signed. Curtis Blades, he's ready and raring to go. He was good in his last fight. Just make it happen. Realistically, he destroyed Buddy Almeida, and yeah, it's obviously just a fight to make realistically. And then I think when we look at Alex Pereira, he faces the winner of Curtis Blades and Tom Aspinall for the interim title fight early next year, around February or March, I reckon. And I know you're probably saying, it's like, well, what do you mean? Like, if Tom Aspinall wins, he's obviously going to fight Jon Jones. But that's the thing. I think if Jon Jones beats Stipe Miocic, he's gone. He's straight out the door. He's not going to be fighting anymore. And I think that comes down to a number of reasons when it comes to the way Tom Aspinall has been acting over the last couple of months in terms of trying to fight Jon Jones. He's really been trying to push it. He's really been trying to get into Jon Jones's face. I mean, literally, they were at an event where Tom Aspinall was wanting to face off with Jon Jones. Jon Jones was not having an absolute bloody bar of it and would not face off with him. And Jon Jones just been palming him off. And I think the more Tom Aspinall pushes this, the more it incentivizes Jon Jones's retirement. Because I think Jon Jones, like sadistically in a way, will want to see Aspinall not get his wish and just see him get no satisfaction out of it. He'll, like, yes, he'll become the heavyweight champion after Jon Jones retires, but he'll never, ever get that fight that he really wants. And Jon Jones will still then be able to retire as the GOAT. So I think it will be left as a we'll never know moment, which does suck, because I do think that Tom Aspinall would probably beat Jon Jones. It's mainly down to the speed. I think there'll just be a ridiculous speed difference there. And yeah, I think it's a fight that really, really sucks that we don't get to see, especially when we look at Jon Jones's career. You know, he's had, I believe it's 4 PED positive tests. He's obviously fucked up a fair bit through his past in terms of, you know, criminal activity and everything like that. And it'd just be good to see, I'm not saying it'd be good to see him lose. It'd just be good to see him have that final real test against someone that, you know, every single fight we have seen Jon Jones in. Tell me like one fight, aside from early on in the Cyril Gane fight, that people have been confident about Jon Jones losing. There is no fight where he has been thought of as the underdog. The only fight where I think he would be thought of as an underdog from start to finish up until the cage door closes is him versus Tom Aspinall. And I think, I think that's just honestly, if it can be possible, that's the fight to make. But I just think it's not going to happen. I just think Jon Jones will have his retirement after 307 and it'll be done there. And I think when we look at moving on from that division in terms of Alex Pereira, I think that Alex Pereira should fight Aspinall once he either beats Ankalaev or Yuri Prochazka. And I think that I think Ankalaev does deserve the fight against Pereira. Obviously, Pereira is full on shoving him to the side at the moment, but I think he does deserve it over Yuri Prochazka. But regardless, I think we are getting either Ankalaev or Yuri before we get Aspinall at this point in time, unless the money really comes through or something, or there's an injury for Ankalaev or Yuri, or both, then we're definitely looking at that Aspinall fight, because even Aspinall's either wanting Pereira or Jones. He's been sizing both of them up, and it's either of those fights brings in a lot of money. Now, when it comes to, it's just like a full circle of just, I don't know what the hell is going on, because you've got Jon Jones, who's also recently just been calling out Alex Pereira after the Miocic fight. But when it comes to that though, I think that his mindset will be different after he fights Stipe. Yeah, Jon Jones is saying all this stuff now. He's saying, oh, why would I fight Aspinall? Look at Alex Pereira. You know, he's the biggest name, basically the biggest name in the sport right now. He's got much more of a worldwide presence. Aspinall's only for the UK. No one cares about him. No one cares about that fight. I'd much rather Alex Pereira. Now, when it comes to Jon Jones saying that, let's be honest here. If Jon Jones is going to fight Alex Pereira, or he's going to fight Aspinall, Pereira is the easier fight. Pereira is an amazing KO artist and could KO Jon Jones, but he has, like, the wrestling difference is just ridiculous, and especially that submission threat from Jones. We saw what he did to Cyril Gane. Imagine what he can do to Alex Pereira on the ground. Cyril Gane is definitely better than Pereira on the ground from what we've seen, at least, and Jon Jones would destroy him on the ground. If you haven't seen my Double Champs matchups video, go check that out. I talk about Jon Jones versus Pereira in that video. But with that aside, I mean, Jon Jones, calling out Pereira after Miocic, I honestly just don't think it's going to happen. I think his mindset's going to be completely different after he fights Stipe. Literally up until the point where he gets on that mic after he beats Stipe at UFC 307, he will retire. And he'll get so much of a kick out of it because he'll be seeing Alex Pereira, and 100% Aspinall will be at that fight cage side, and he'll be looking at Aspinall's eyes deep into his bloody soul and saying, I retire, you're never getting this fight. I can just see it clear as day. No surprise if that happens whatsoever. Moving on from them, though, when it comes to around that 2 to 5 to 10 range, I mean, it's still clogged. You look at Cyril Gane and what he is doing at this point. Yes, he rebounded well against Sergey Spivak on that French fight night, but honestly, after getting destroyed by Jon Jones, that Spivak fight is not enough. He needs to get a title fight eliminator against Pavlovich. That's the way to really have movement, especially in that top 5. Those two need to fight for a title eliminator because it's going to push one of them back and it's going to push one of them forward for a title opportunity. And I think since Aspinall already took out Pavlovich, it's just simple, plain and simple. Jones has taken out Cyril, Aspinall's taken out Pavlovich, make Pavlovich and Gane. Honestly, either get the Volkov fight done quick, get Pavlovich to... I like Volkov, but Volkov, I agree with him. I don't think he stands a chance against Pavlovich. That Gane and Pavlovich fight needs to be a title eliminator fight as soon as possible to make the heavyweight division run more coherently. And then we look at, when it comes to Pereira, if he doesn't fight Aspinall after Ankalaev or Yuri, if he actually beats one of them, then Gane versus Pavlovich is 100% the fight that needs to be made later in the year. And whoever wins that fight will then fight Aspinall for the undisputed title early next year, with obviously Jon Jones leaving the sport for good. So either Aspinall will get the title straight away after Jon Jones retires, or he will fight Alex Pereira, or he will fight Pavlovich or Gane, the winner, to unify that title. So that's the way I think that is probably the best streamlined outcome for the division. But ultimately, I think the faster Jon Jones and Stipe Miocic are out of the division, the better it is for the progression of the heavyweight division.